we're going to talk very briefly about mentoring and something that you can do within your building to help foster student-to-adult relationships. And that is to look at the adults within your building, your faculty, your cafeteria workers, your secretaries, all the adults in the building, and begin to think about pairing them up with students. These are some of the characteristics, some of the things that we think are important for caring adults to have. Obviously, someone who is not going to give up on a student. You know, well, you might not have those teachers, but when I worked and taught special ed, there were teachers that would sometimes say to a kid, "You can't come back to my class." Well, you know, that's not exactly the type of person we're looking for to be our caring adult and mentor. So obviously we're looking for someone who's approachable. Who are those adults in your building that everybody wants to see? If it's the secretary at my children's elementary school, it's the family engagement specialist, Miss Mimi. She walks into the cafeteria and they all flock to her. They want to have lunch with her. That idea of persistence, somebody even put persistence up there as an important characteristic of a favorite teacher. And Franz kind of coined the term benevolent nag. We need our caring adults to be those benevolent nags in your building that stay on top of kids and are there to help them along the way. There are three important roles for a caring adult. Mentor is one of those important roles, but the other two are monitoring and advocating, and Fran's going to briefly talk about those.
Okay, very, very briefly, y'all, and then anybody, I'm so happy to have conversations with you. As far as mentoring, that's in the literature. You can look that up. You know what that is. They have a positive adult role model, building that trusting relationship. I want you to look at monitoring. This is a data-driven process, okay? And how do you collect data on this mentoring program? What happens is principals have said to me, "Fran, how do you monitor this?" The way they monitor it is you set up a fidelity piece, you set up an accountability piece, that the mentors get a weekly email every Friday from the other teachers. Whoever's the child's mentor gets a report from each teacher. Attendance, discipline, grades. And then when the mentor meets every single week, the student at middle school or high school initials it. The student at elementary school puts a little smiley face so that the student acknowledges, "I had my weekly meeting." Okay? And then there are some principals who just want a record of the weekly meeting sent through email electronically, and others, they collect the pieces of paper. But the student acknowledges that weekly meeting. And what you do in the weekly meeting is you talk about the attendance, you talk about the academics, you talk about the behavior. I noticed this week you had a little trouble in math class. Let's talk about it, what happened. If you've developed that trusting relationship from the mentoring role, when you're doing the monitoring piece, the student will be candid with you and forthcoming and tell you what happened at home that made that math test not so successful because the night before there was a big to-do at the house, okay? Another role for mentors is advocating. These are the kids who are on your underperforming group. They might not feel like anybody's going to listen to them if they try to self-advocate. So the mentor's third role, to me, is advocating for the student. If the student is having an issue with the teacher and the student doesn't feel, well, it won't matter what I say, the mentor can intervene. The mentor can get things going, and we've had that done. We had a student whose IEP accommodations weren't being fulfilled. I went to Jennifer. Jennifer fixed it as department chair, and it's all done, and so we advocated. So those are some roles for that. You have to figure out who the caring adults in your building. Don't forget the custodians, the lunch ladies, the secretaries, those people that you might not think are awesome mentors. And figure out who the caring adults are in your building. Go ahead, Jennifer. And then we need to talk about selecting and assigning. Make sure that you take into account personality styles. It's important to do that. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, we're running out of time, so just an important thing to keep in mind is that, we're talking about these marginalized students, the kids who might not have sticky dots next to their name, and part of what we're trying to develop in these kids is a sense of resiliency. We know kids are resilient when they can say, there are adults that care about me, there are things that I'm good at. We know that resilience is an attribute that we can develop and foster. We can do that by communicating our caring and support, by setting those high expectations, thinking again of that service learning piece where you're saying, I believe in you so much that I think you can impact positive change in our community. That's a really high expectation. And the 5 attributes of resilience that we're really going for so many kids are those relationships, that independence, that sense of optimism, creativity. The final thing we're going to look at are some next steps that you can take within your school as you kind of look at increasing students' affective engagement.
Okay, I'm not going to go through these. The slides are posted on the website. But it's really important once you know your target kids, once you know which of the underperforming group you're going to have as target kids, contact those families, let them know. Don't say your kid's a target kid, just say your child is one for whom we've decided we're going to provide a lot of extra special support special extra support. We realize your child has been struggling. We want to help your child overcome those struggles. You can use that language, elementary, middle, or high. We want to help your child overcome the struggles.